anger is a really cool subject because, let me think of where I want to start with this. Anger is something that is traditionally looked at as being male, although not exclusively so, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when people talk about toxic masculinity, usually what they're referring to is some kind of like demonstration a male has because he's feeling anger, I feel like. Which gives the erroneous idea that all anger is bad, right? That there's no such thing as good anger. And I feel like we were talking before, there is a strength to anger. There is a plus side. And to condemn anger outright is, number one, I don't think it's spiritually wise. I don't think it's scripturally accurate. And I also feel like it deprives us of the full richness of the human experience that we're here to understand. And okay, so let's take a look at it. Bad anger turns into violence, right? It's uncontrolled. It's like a bomb. It just goes off, indiscriminately hurting everyone around it, right? But what does good anger look like? The first thing that comes to mind is Jesus overturning the money changers in the temple. It's the first thing that comes to mind.
Same.
And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so here's Jesus. He's angry. I don't think anyone who's ever read the scriptural account can say or doesn't think he's angry. But the part that gets me is he sits down and he braids a whip. Number one, like, Jesus knows how to make weapons. Like, think about that. Like, the implications of that. Jesus knows how to make weapons. He knows how to make a whip. He knows how to braid it. And this is not something you just like, oh, I'm going to sit down and braid a whip. I bet there's a little more to it than that you have to know how to do it, which means he's done it before. Like, the idea that Jesus has the knowledge and has the experience of building weapons is kind of like mind-blowing, right? Like, is there a place for weapons? I think there is. And I think that's part of the good part of anger that we don't talk about. So to go on further with this, Jesus sits there, and I don't know how long it takes to braid a whip. I would say it's probably going to take maybe an hour or two. I don't know. It's definitely not a 5-minute task.
Yeah.
So you've got to be angry enough to sit down and take action over the course of an extended period of time. When we think about anger, it's a flash in the pan, right? Bad anger, it comes on without any warning sometimes, or it's like the bomb analogy, right? It just goes off, right? And it's quick and it's done, and then it's kind of over. But righteous anger, or if that's the right terms we want to use, I think is different, where it's held, it's understood, there's a buy-in to it almost, right?
Yeah.
Where I can see Jesus buying into, I'm angry that they are desecrating my Father's house. They are polluting my Father's house. They are polluting themselves, and this has to stop. And I'm angry, and I'm going to take the actions I need through that anger to give me the power I need to make the change that I want to see happen in my Father's house. I mean, none of that is inherently bad or evil. That's the other connotation that we have with anger, is that anger is essentially evil, but it doesn't have to be, right?
Yeah.
So Jesus finished braiding the whip, and then he starts throwing tables around, knocking tables over, cracking the whip, but he doesn't hit anybody. He is showing everyone, without a doubt, he is capable of violence, but he is not going straight to violence. And I think that's a really important distinction there. It's kind of like having a sword but keeping it in its sheath, right? And Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot too, where you have to have the capacity to be the monster without choosing to be the monster. That's true strength. And I think that's the righteous anger, is choosing a line of action, empowering it with the anger, not letting it be a flash in the pan, but a conscientious choice that you buy into to do something that you feel is right, and doesn't necessarily have to be violent, but it has to be displayed that there is the capacity for violence. Anger without the capacity for violence is impotent. It doesn't have power. It's powerless.
Interesting.
So for anger to have true power, it has to have the capability for it and the choice whether or not to use it. Just wanted to go ahead.
Great,
what were you going to say?
No, it's awesome. I was thinking this is especially cool because of our conversation yesterday, which is about like you're kind of going through this new layer of like, I want to let righteous anger come out instead of choosing no anger because anger's bad. Or, you even talked about like weakening yourself or pretending to not be strong because you're afraid of what you might do with that power or strength. So it's really cool to be kind of exploring this. I'm also in a place of exploring this. I'll give a little personal background here. I've been wanting to share this with you because it still feels so fresh. I have 2 dogs. One is not a big deal. One is old and does nothing. You know what I mean? Like she is fine and whatever. They're both rescues. Our bigger dog is like high anxiety, high stress, just like a little, I wouldn't say fully a reactive dog, but really close to a reactive dog, and I've had her for like 2 years. We've had her for 2 years and it's been a roller coaster. I've gone through times where I've been like, okay, I finally love this dog, and there have been really cool moments with my kids and our dog Oatmeal. It's been interesting though to be experiencing it. Like I've had some good times and then I'm experiencing a new wave of just like massive anger and frustration with the situation and with my dog. And I'm trying to figure out why. Like I think I've definitely been in the unhealthy anger, especially what happened last night. Last night we're at the park. We went to the park really late because like our kids don't have a bedtime really. We're just like trying to wear them out so they will go to sleep. So we went to the park. It's like dark. There are people over playing tennis. So like there are people there, and we were playing with our kids on the jungle gym, and this other dad brought his little kid to come play, and Oatmeal's on a leash there with us. So we got the dogs just sitting at a bench. And Oatmeal starts just going crazy, just barking at like the kid.
The kid?
Yeah, just because it's like not one of our kids. So she gets nervous around like, oh, someone's approaching. It's not our family. And so Isabel, my wife, for those that don't know who Isabel is, Isabel starts like, pulling the leash, like, hey, stop, trying to get her to chill out. And nothing. It's like getting worse and like higher. She starts getting into that like, like the kind of like the sound you hear from a dog that's a bad dog. That's the feeling like, oh, that's a scary dog. And she's on a leash. It's not like, the kid's not coming that close. Like the kid's like got to be 20 feet away. But every time the kid comes any closer on the jungle gym, even playing with Daisy, my dog Oatmeal can't figure out that it's okay. Like they're just playing. So she's like, it kind of it's awakening this thing in me that's like it's not right at a dangerous situation, but it's really close to one. Like if the kid decided to run over or, it sucks to have a dog that can't just relax. And then I'm sure there's some frustration as the owner. Like I can't figure out how to help her relax. So I've tried everything from fully calm, like waiting, like, hey, just wait. And I'm calm, and then try to reward her when she chills out. But that hasn't worked. I've tried like more correcting, like, hey, or like give her that, or like I'll give her a little poke in the side to get her like chill out. I've tried like pulling on the leash, all of that, and she just kept upscaling last night. I'm sure there's some embarrassment too about like this other dad's just trying to like have his kid play at a thing, and there's this like wild sounding animal over there. So anyway, I just got in such a frustrated, angry place where I'm just like, I don't even want you. To the dog. I'm just like, I don't want you anymore, dude. I'm tired of dealing with your stuff. I'm like, I don't know if it's obvious from how I've said it so far. It's probably obvious to you. I'm like cursing under my breath, just like, you stupid. Like, I'm just so mad. And there's also this feeling of like, I don't even really understand why I'm so angry, but I'm so angry. So anyway, this is a very fresh subject for me too. Like, I want to figure out how that anger could be healthier and how I can turn it into something good. And, honestly, like all night, I'm like, I think I'm just ready to find someone else to take our dog. I don't want her, which maybe I will make that choice, but I also want to figure out the anger too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to have options.
And if you have any coaching questions, you're welcome to coach me.
I was just going to ask, like, is it okay if I ask you some questions?
Please
we dive into this? Can we
dude, make it hurt?
Can we
Make it.
can we dive in and see what's there? So, I think what you touched on was really like the part that stuck out to me is you talked about, okay, there's some public shame here that you're feeling because you can't get your dog under control. And there's a feeling and a fear of what are other people thinking of you as a reflection of how your dog is acting.
Right.
Which is, that I understand that. That sucks. On the other hand, what they don't see is all the work you've done with this dog. I mean, you have done a lot of work with this dog.
Yeah.
I know. You've tried a lot of different things. And the thing is, and I want to put this out there so that people who are listening have a perspective that I have. But one of the stories that you've told me is you've been to the vet, you've taken the dogs in, and the vet has been so impressed with your ability to work with the other animals there, including your own. They offered you a job on the spot.
That is true and crazy.
Yes. I mean, you're very good with animals. So the fact that this particular animal is something where it feels like as much as you give, it doesn't seem to be the level of healing or growth that you're looking for. There's a frustration level there that feels like no matter what I do, I can't seem to help this dog.
Yeah.
And so the anger is coming up because you're mad at yourself for not being able to figure out how to fix her. You want to help your dog, but the anger is that I just don't know how anymore. I don't know what steps to take. And there's a frustration there that how could I not be able to figure this out?
Dude. Yeah, totally. And I think part of it too is like I feel a huge I love, we've talked about this, like I do love to achieve. Yeah, I love to show, like make progress and things. So it does feel like I put 2 years of like near constant work, and there's there's some change, but honestly not really, not that much. And then I think on the embarrassment of like what other people are thinking, I think the other piece that ties into that is that it's about the kids feeling unsafe. Because I think if it's all adults, like because I've done a little bit of like self-exploration on this area where like, okay, the neighbors can tell my dog's not well behaved. Like it's a deal, but it's not a huge deal. It's
Right.
like, okay, I'm working through that. But there's this extra feeling of like that kid probably doesn't feel safe. You know what I mean? Like, and I hate the idea that a little kid would feel less safe around my animal. And then there's this like, do I just have to leave stuff? Do I just go home with my dog? You know what I mean? Like, is that the only solution, is to like hide my dog from everybody? So yeah, that all kind of hurts.
You put yourself in the shoes of the other child and you feel unsafe as that child.
And I have been bitten by dogs as a kid. So that's cool.
So that's all coming up, it sounds like.
Yeah. I think
Now,
so.
straight facts, we don't know how that child felt. Although it's nice of you to like put yourself in their shoes, and maybe there's some empathy there where you're actually feeling what they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But it also might be that if we talk to that kid today, they might not even know what you're talking about. Like they'd be like, I don't remember a dog. I had a great time at the park.
That's true.
So there's no need to take on additional blame or guilt for something that you're not sure even happened.
Dude, I like that. And maybe it's an opportunity to go, what I was feeling yesterday wasn't his, it was mine. Like I'm the little kid that's afraid of dogs still, you know? Like I'm not afraid of my dog, but I'm vicariously afraid of that situation or something.
You're scared of a strange, angry dog barking and growling and acting threatening towards you as a kid.
Dude, that's way true. Well, shoot. Okay, I will keep exploring that. That ties really well into this idea. You talked about like good anger, bad anger. Mm-hmm. Another cool way to talk about it is this philosophy. I honestly don't know if this is mine or mine mixed with other people's ideas or just, I don't know. This is what feels true to me though.
Yeah.
Is that every emotion can be combined with love or with fear. So you have
like that.
sadness. You can take sadness that's filled with love is actually really beautiful. Like the opportunity to grieve with someone when they lose a loved one. That's beautiful. Like
It's healthy.
and it's healthy. If you were
Yeah.
incapable of feeling that type of sadness, like,
Oh, that would just
is that
stay in
a
your
joyful-
body and ruin you.
Yeah, is that a joyful life if you're not able to be sad? You know, so I see this beautiful, like, oh, sad love is beautiful. Sadness mixed with fear can turn more to like despair, depression. There's no hope, that kind of feeling. And so I think the same thing happens with anger. That anger mixed with fear looks like what I felt last night, which is like I start getting really frustrated, and I was excessively physical with my dog, just like pulling her around, like, stop, shut up. And I'm sort of in a reactive place instead of being like in touch with what I really want to create. Whereas love anger, I think, looks more like what you talked about with Jesus, where he's making a conscious decision. And, there may be some of the people in that temple who like never forgot the experience, or it was an invitation to change the way they thought about the temple and about money, whatever it was. It's an experience that has a ripple effect of growth, and it's not a fear motivated action. It's a love motivated action. So anyway, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, but that's what I like to think of when it comes to righteous anger. I like love anger versus fear anger.
I think righteous anger is typically understood as protector energy. It's a dog is coming after, sorry to use the dog thing, that's just first thing came up.
Yeah.
A dog is coming after, I remember when me and Ashley, my wife, lived in a downstairs apartment, and we were walking somewhere. And we were out on the road, and the neighbors had these two dogs, and the two dogs were usually chained up. But for some reason, the kids were out in the yard that morning playing with the dogs, and they'd unchain the dogs. And the dogs were usually like pretty aggressive, but they were always chained up, so it was never like that big of a deal, right? But this day, for whatever reason it was, they weren't chained up, and they came running at us. Now, I threw myself in front of Ashley and was very angry with the dogs, yelling at the dogs, using my anger to intimidate, scare them to stop what they were doing, right?
I'm sweating, dude. I'm honestly, I broke a sweat from that story.
The dogs are rushing us, and the kids, and they're barking, and they're trying to circle us, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to keep Ashley behind me while I'm trying to angrily, kick and growl and yell at these dogs to keep them away, keep them at bay. And they're working in tandem to try to it was a scary situation. Yeah. It was a scary situation. And the kids are sitting on the porch, I'll never forget it, with their eyes wide open, their mouths agape, and they're just they were just shocked. They didn't know what to do. And I was screaming, come get your friggin' dogs right now. Get them right now. Get them right now. And if I hadn't been angry, if I hadn't used that angry power in that moment, and I guess looking back on it, there's a healthy amount of desperation too, to be honest. I think they would have attacked us. But that eventually the kids came and got the dogs, and I think they got the parents, and anyways, whole deal. But we didn't get attacked, everything was okay, but we were happy to move, let me just put it that way, at a future date.
That's intense, dude.
But without that anger, I mean, what would that situation have looked like if I hadn't been angry? If I hadn't been yelling? If I hadn't been... I think the dogs would have taken it as a sign of, oh, well, we can do whatever we want then, and attacked, right? So I think righteous anger is used to protect people in that way, but I also think there's even a higher level. And I keep thinking about the people of Alma who sacrificed their weapons, right, and would not take them up again and let themselves be killed in, according to the scriptures, the most distressing manner. and praise God in the act of dying.
Yeah.
Now that is some violence. That is some anger. And it is really easy to react to anger with more anger. That is a natural inclination. When the dog rushes at you, you unleash your anger back, and it becomes an anger match, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how more powerful is it if someone comes at you with anger and you keep your anger in check? You keep your sword in the sheath. You're capable of fighting. You had the weapons of war. You knew how to use them. I mean, all those guys did, right? They buried the weapons of war. They were trained in those weapons, but they chose not to use them, even though they had the capacity to use them. And instead, they held their solemn covenant with God to non-inflict violence on other people. So I cannot believe that these people who were Lamanites were not accustomed and very familiar with angry outbursts. If they had weapons of war and the way they lived, and it's talked about their society from what we know from the accounts of Lamoni and
The other person.
and the others, is it sounds like there was a lot of warring, a lot of fighting. It was it was a people that was very much, and anger was a regular part of their lives. They were not as civilized, if I can use that term, as it sounds like the Nephites were, right? Yeah. They were a little more brutal of a people. So for these people who are so accustomed to that anger, to using weapons, to being trained, to choose instead to keep their swords, as they say, bright and deep in the earth, to me that is the next level of righteous anger. Is to step back and say, I will not use it, but I have it. And I think there are times to do both, right? I mean, that's an extraordinary circumstance. I mean, if someone were to break into my house, I'm probably going to put them down, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what I mean, or I guess where I'm going with all this, is that there are different levels of righteous anger, but as a society, it feels like we are pushed more and more, especially as men, and being labeled as toxic right off the bat, to never go near anger. And if we don't, we won't be able to access the power we need to protect and help and serve those we love in our families and in our communities.
Dude, yeah. Well, what I'm getting from that is if your anger is blocking you from inspiration, then you're in trouble, because righteous anger is still inspired.
Such a cool idea. I love this.
Yeah, so I think that's key, because you've got like Jesus Christ, right? There's this anger that comes up about misusing the temple. What do I do now, right? Like, what's the next step? Instead of like reaction, it's like look for inspiration. Or you've got I don't even know who the people you talked about. What's their name again? That let themselves be killed.
Oh, the Almasites, or the
whoeverites in the Book of Mormon. Like, that obviously was
people of Ammon.
Let's say, like, if assuming that was right, that doesn't mean it's right for everyone to always do that, right? But it was an inspired. There's an inspiration about this feels true in this moment. Versus if someone breaks into your house tonight, it's not the time for your family to die, So, boom, you protect and use your anger that way. So.
Yeah. I think, I this is especially for the men out there. I mean, I feel like if we acquiesce and we let society tell us that, number one, being a man is bad, being masculine is bad, being tapping into our anger ever is toxic masculinity, which is like triple bad, then we won't be the kind of men that our God needs to build and protect the society that we want.
I think you're right. It feels like it's a call to figure out. It's a call because you got to practice. You have to understand. That's not something that just happens. Like, you got to understand what healthy anger looks like. Finding healthy outlets, I think, is important too. Like, just because you don't have, it's not like you need to wait to have the perfect response to your anger to start letting your anger be felt, right? Like, I think we kind of get scared. I think when we're scared, it's easy to think it's all or nothing. Like, we have two options: to either never let our anger through, or to let it all the way out and it's going to be too much. But as you start to get creative and look for what works for you, I think there's so many options. Even I'm thinking like in a conversation with my wife, like if something comes up, it's okay. Like we've been practicing this for a couple of years now. It's okay for me to say, I'm feeling really angry about this situation, and I'm going to take some time and feel through it. Like instead of shutting it down and suppressing, just being honest, I'm feeling super upset. I'm not saying it's your fault, but I am feeling really angry. Can you give me 20 minutes? And then let's talk again. Or if I'm feeling in a good enough place, I can say, I'm feeling pretty upset. Can I express that to you? Can I express what I'm feeling upset about? And she'll say, I don't want to hear it. I'm pretty angry right now too. Like I don't want to listen to you. So then we both take time, right? It's this thing where we're honoring what's coming up. We're honoring the emotions that are coming up and then saying, what do we do now? It's this creative process instead of a destructive process.
Yeah, I love that. I especially love that you are also honoring the space that your spouse is in, right? Because you're saying, look, I understand that I'm really angry right now. I want to talk about it. Are you in a space where you can talk about it? Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't do anybody any good if you're in a space to talk about it and she's not. Because where's that conversation going to go? It's not going to be creative. It's not going to be constructive. Yeah. Right? It's going to be you. It's going to end up a shouting match. And we do something really similar with me and Ashley. What we'll do is we'll ask each other, I want to talk about this. Do you feel like you can talk about this right now? And if she says no, and I'll be like, well, I really want to talk about this right now. Like, I'm like, I don't know if I can stop, right? Like, I just need to talk about it because I got to get it out. Well, then the best thing to do is go journal about it, right? Go write about it. And I can write that letter directly to who I'm mad at, or I can just write about all the emotions I'm feeling. But what that'll do is it will create a separation between the intensity of the emotions and the actual experience that is helping to create those emotions. Mm-hmm. So then when I come back around later and I say, okay, I've kind of decoupled the emotion from what happened so I can talk about it now without the emotion, controlling the conversation. Are you ready to talk about it? And if she needs to do the same thing, she'll let me know. She's like, well, no, I'm still feeling angry. I need to go work it out on my own first, and then I'll come back. At that point, you can have a really creative and constructive conversation about whatever happened so that you can find ways to make your relationship better, make your family safer, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
And, I found that to be very helpful. And I love that you talk about, like, the worst thing you do with anger is just stuff it. To just try to storm off and, like, try to cover it with a rug or pretend it didn't happen or, and my wife has this book and I love the title. It's
Buried Feelings or
Feelings Buried Alive Never Die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's true. Like, it just stays inside of you, right?
Yeah.
So when the kids are upset, I tell them, okay, let's go throw rocks. Let's yell in your pillow. Let's run. Let's, use your body that you've been given to help push some of this anger out so that you can get the relief you really want. Because anger is not relief. It's a built-up emotion that you're feeling because you want to affect a change that isn't, the world isn't the way it's supposed to be right now. I mean, I feel like that's like what anger really is underneath it all. I'm upset because the world should be this way, or this should be this way, and it's not.
Okay, I feel stuck.
Yeah.
And I'm frustrated with that lack of change.
Yes.
Flying.
And it's really neat because if you were to take all of the connotations away from anger, what anger is a power that you have to literally change the world around you or whatever it is to make it better. Anger, in its very isolated intellectual goal, is you are incited about something in your world that you don't like, that feels wrong, and you want to make it right, better, whole, complete.
Yeah.
How can that not be righteous?
Yeah, I love this idea that maybe anger's default is righteous. Like it's Naomi Fox Reyna. I don't know if people that will be in our audience will know her yet, but she does like the astrology, human design kind of stuff, very Christ-centered. One of my favorite things that she said is she'll talk about I've heard her say this about every emotion. Like, this emotion is the sacred emotion that God has given you to help you understand this about yourself, right? This frustration or anger is a sacred emotion that's letting you know that there's something you want to change and that you haven't figured out how to do it yet.
I love that.
It's so beautiful. Anger is sacred. Anger is powerful. I was going to give this kind of a pro tip on how to like get anger conversations started. Like if you're feeling angry and you've been suppressing, I think pro tip number one, you have to start from a place of accountability. So if you're going to come at it at you're making me angry, especially, I mean, they're words, but like think about what you're saying. You're literally forcing me to be angry. That's not real.
Yeah, you're forcing me to have these feelings.
Yeah, you're making me feel this way.
I have no power in this situation whatsoever.
Right. It's a story, right? It's not factual. It's not the truth. It's this story. And then you'll usually get a similar response back. Well, you're making me feel terrible about myself for doing this, whatever. So a great way to turn that feeling into something you can factually talk about is I'm experiencing a lot of anger when I see you saying this, when I hear you say this, or when I see this situation in our house or in my life, I'm experiencing a ton of anger. And if you can take that accountability, if you can say like, this is my anger, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm just expressing it to you so that I'm wanting to express it. Is that okay? When you're in that space, I almost want to say it this way, like you can get as angry as you want. You can experience as much anger as you want safely, as long as you're willing to be accountable for it. If you're going to turn that and put it on other people, that's when it becomes very destructive. Like, I can't handle the anger that you're putting on me, so I'm going to hurt you or yell at you or insult you. That's always destructive.
I couldn't agree more. The thing about anger is it's a power to change, right? It's this increase of power to make a change in your world. So if you turn around and say, you're making me angry, where's the power now shifted to?
You give it away.
You give it away.
Nice.
You've literally taken your anger, the power that you were given, and let's go a step more and say it's a sacred emotion and power God's given you to make better changes in the world, and you've taken that power and you've literally handed it over to somebody else. And I feel like we do that all the time in society, and then that just makes the anger worse, because what you've done is said, I don't like this, I want this to change, but I'm going to give you all the power to make the change, so now I can't do anything.
I'm even more
powerless. That's right. So you can see that the anger would just build, right?
Yeah. Dude, so powerless anger is where we get weird.
I think powerless anger leads directly into violence.
Yeah. Because if you're
losing control because you feel like you're stuck and you can't do anything because you're giving your power away.
Yeah. Oh, I love that whole connection of like fearful anger, powerless anger. It's also like scarcity versus abundance. Because if you believe there's not enough, there's no way that this could ever have a solution. I need to like take it from someone else, or someone's got to suffer, instead of like abundant anger, or, abundance mixed with that experience is like, okay, I'm frustrated, but I trust there's a solution. I'm angry. I'm feeling angry, but I trust that God can help us find a healthy solution to this situation.
Any number of solutions.
Oh yeah. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Where when you give your power away, there's no solutions, right? You no longer have the power. You're stuck.
Dude. Okay. So take all that.
Yeah.
And ask me a question about my dog.
All right. Let's ask you a question about your dog.
Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I get it. The principle feels really right. And I would love to love my dog again. Cause that's what I'm experiencing is like, I'm so angry. At least last night, like the part of me that came to the surface, I think it was my child self I'm trying to protect, right? I'm like hurt. I've been bit by dogs, whatever. It was really interesting to see how starkly that shifted to where I literally was saying to myself, like, whoa, I cannot love my dog right now. Like I can't feel any love for her. And it's not that she's not a lovable dog. She's awesome. She's super funny, way goofy animal. She's like a gorgeous dog too. Do you have anything you could like help me anchor this with?
I do have a question that's bubbling in the back of my mind here. It might take me one or two tries to get the question just right. But there's something about, can you see your younger self, the one that's afraid of dogs, embracing and loving your dog Oatmeal?
Whoa. There's this thing that happens when you ask questions sometimes where like you're hitting the exact spot where it like freaks. There's part of me that's like, nah, don't ask it. Please don't. Because it's the right question. So good. Okay, I'm going to actually try like, I mean, it feels like no, I'm struggling to do that, but I feel the invitation there. Like
Because Oatmeal keeps barking.
she keeps barking.
So
Yeah.
can you, as your younger child who's had traumatic experiences with dogs, give Oatmeal a hug while she's barking and tell her that you love her even if she barks?
Whoa. Because she's not making me angry. That's like what's connecting. What she's doing isn't making me angry. Though I guess you could say there is potentially a physical response to loud noises, but it's different. Like I'm trying to own my anger even as a kid and my
Right.
fear as a kid. Like,
Right.
okay, I'm feeling angry.
And seeing it separate from the stimulus.
And I'm having this flashback too with this. There's a black Labrador dog in the neighborhood. And I'm sure that part of the reason it bit me is because I got scared and I turned and I ran. Or, you know, like there's this like, oh, and then it turns on there, you know, I got to chase and bite that butt.
I chase what runs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he thought my butt was running because that's where he bit me. Okay, so yeah, if I can love Oatmeal from my my younger self, even when she's barking, I can still have like this is me just talking out what's coming to mind. Like I can still choose boundaries. Like we may not go to the park or be around kids right now while she's doing that, but it doesn't mean I'm not loving her or that I'm angry. But like I can still make choices.
But can we play with this idea?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that your dog Oatmeal is so wise that Oatmeal is trying to protect you today from the black Labrador that might appear around the corner? And she's trying to protect that youthful little Kyson from any dog or any other threat that might pop up. And she's barking because she is just she feels your pain and she wants nothing more than protect you from it.
Wow, dude. I honestly was not expecting anything like that. I can at least say there's something deeply true about that.
Yeah. I feel something there. So maybe the answer here is, or maybe the thought is if we work with the child Kyson and heal him from those traumatic dog experiences, or maybe some of the other childhood experiences that caused you some pain and some fear, she would calm down because there's the part of you that she's connecting to would also calm down.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's this moment, I'm remembering a moment when, because there's this whole backstory to getting our dog where like Isabel wanted a dog and I was like, ugh, I don't want a dog. But there is a moment late, like a year down the road, where I was at the dog park with Oatmeal. And there was just this whisper from God that was like, hey, I brought Oatmeal into your life for you, not for Isabel. Like that, this is for you. You know, how else am I going to heal a young part of me that's really scared without being able to reface the situation, which is be with a dog that's anxious around little kids. And I've never even thought of I've never thought of the dogs when I was younger being anxious around kids. I'm like, that's a bad dog. I hate that dog. So this is the first time I'm like giving it some, I'm like humanizing it, but it's more dogizing it. You know what I mean? Like dogs get anxious, but as a kid, I just felt unsafe. So it is pretty interesting to be, maybe God's giving me another opportunity to face and heal that part of me. And Oatmeal's the catalyst for feeling that. And so maybe I can practice some gratitude and along with all the other stuff that you're bringing up.
Can I lay on another thought for you?
Please, dude. Yeah, I'm not make it. You can go at least 2 levels deeper before I'll be like, oh, crap, that's too much.
What if Oatmeal loves you so much and so deeply that she's willing to take any punishment from you in order to keep you safe?
Dude, what is wrong with you? Wow. Why do you have to hit so hard? Yeah, dude. That's cool. I think you're totally right. All right.
Oatmeal is a great barometer for you, I think, to see how you're healing.
Dude, yeah.
So this is the crazy thing about life, is like we're giving these crazy experiences that like beat us down and hurt us in so many ways, right? And we're learning in life how to heal and grow from those experiences. Life's journey is about learning how to heal. But you can't heal until you've been hurt. And there is kind of the rub, as it were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like that's the really kind of, I don't know if I really want to say cool part, but the cool part about life is we're learning how to heal the wounds that we've received in life, that I think we can then take that healing into the lives of others. Life is really all about healing, but the healing also comes on the tail end of the pain that we receive.
Yeah.
And the injustices that life doles out so liberally.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, that's very wise. Obviously a lot of this I'm going to take and take with me and think on it. I think you're right on. And it's fun. This ties back to our other conversation about worth, which is like, does Oatmeal's worth is great because she is. And how can you put a price on the experience of Oatmeal coming into my life to let me heal something I hadn't healed? You know what I mean? Like, you can't there's no money value that you can put on that stuff. It's just a valuable experience, and it's a high worth experience. So I do feel humbled, and like, it's interesting. The anger is, I think it's like kind of gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The anger is resolved, and I've been looking for change, right? The anger was trying to tell me I need a change in some perspective, and there's a younger piece of me that's trying to figure out how to change what I've experienced with dogs, or the unsafety I felt there, or whatever. So yeah, that I can feel the sacredness of anger in this moment.
I love what you said, that anger is an invitation to change. And I think it becomes really easy for us to misconstrue that invitation is for somebody else.
Yeah, to make someone else change.
But really, we're the ones feeling anger. It's an invitation for us to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, dude. Whew. Well, deep breaths, and to me, I'm feeling full, as in, like, I feel like I'm going to go think about that for a few days. But do you feel like there's anything else about anger to talk about today? No, I think we're good today with this podcast. I think it would be really interesting to dive into my own anger journey at a later podcast, because I think my anger journey is really maybe unique, or at least interesting. Yeah, and might provide some guidance and some help for other people as well. That'd be awesome. Part 2, anger part 2. Yeah. Okay, there will be a part 2 someday then. Yeah. That sounds awesome. Dude, well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you. Absolutely. Always, man. Thanks so much for watching our podcast. We appreciate it. And if you feel the call to heal the world, starting with yourself, we invite you to join our men's group, True Masculinity. The options and details are in the show notes. We'll see you there.